Welcome back to another episode of Client Builder for Financial Advisors. I'm your host, Brian Quaranta, and with me, as always, is the master, the Yoda of selling, Larry Lewis. Larry, great to be with you again.
Good to be with you, Brian. Gosh, the hype keeps getting bigger with every episode.
Well, as I've told you, you are New York Times bestseller stuff. And I've got to ask, you always talk about marketing, and you say marketing drives confidence. I believe in that. But tell us why.
So there's a lot of things that drives confidence, but in a financial services practice, a financial advisory practice like yourself, what a strong marketing campaign does for you is it affords you the ability to lose one here and there.
Right.
And so, take your firm, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You invest a good bit in marketing. How many radio shows do you have? You're on TV.
Yeah.
Your team.
4 radio shows, 5 TV shows. You're talking about 6 to 8 public presentations a month. A lot going on.
So here's what that does for the advisor. Now, in an episode prior to this, I mentioned that one of my principles that you brought to my attention is selling as a process of disqualification.
Yes.
When you're effective, you have to be 100% about making sure that this prospect you're talking to is a good fit for what you do.
That's right.
Okay? Too oftentimes, we take, and you and I have had conversations about this, we take on an opportunity or we take on a client that really doesn't fit our profile.
Right.
And what happens?
Yeah, well, they become the squeaky wheel, the pain in the ass. You can't wait to get rid of them because you should have never taken them.
Exactly.
Yes.
And, it was interesting because in my practice, of course, I'm prospecting. I'm doing the same thing you all do. I had a radio show for a while. I did seminars every month, and there was always that one client.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say to myself, why do I have this client? I can't stand working with this client.
Right.
What was
right?
What was wrong with me? Why did I ever bring them on?
Yep.
And I'll go back and I'll look at the month that I signed them up as a client.
Mm-hmm.
And invariably, it was either in August or December. Why do you think that is?
Because nothing was going on in those months.
My business is very similar to yours. Those are our slowest months, are they
Correct.
not?
Yes.
It's vacation month,
Yep.
August, and December, everybody wants to wait until after the holiday.
That's right.
Right? So I have an opportunity, and it's like, oh, thank God somebody wants to buy from me. And I would take it on and later regret it. Now, what happens to you is that when you're in a scarcity mindset,
Mm-hmm.
we take on things that we shouldn't take because they're not really a good fit for us, but we got this little voice in the back of our head says, and professional actors, I've heard, have this voice that once they finish a movie or once they finish a play, their fear is that they're never going to get another role. Okay? Well, all of us that have been successful in selling probably went through some lean years, right?
Yep.
You and I laugh about the fact that today the young advisors typically don't have to cold call. And yet when we first got started in this business, somebody handed us a phone book or a directory of some sort and said, make 50 dials a day, right?
That's why every client that I first had the last name starting with the letter R. Because I called out of the R section of the phone book for 2 years.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes, but
That's
right.
funny.
Yes, when you're running lean on people to see, you start to stray from your fundamentals and who is your qualified prospect.
Well, 2 things happen.
Yeah.
One is, you're right. But if we've experienced that, we
Yep.
never want to go back to that.
Right.
And what you want to have is a pipeline full of opportunities because A, it's going to make you a better salesman
Mhm.
because you can stick to your process. when they start asking for things that are outside of the process, or when they start asking you to make concessions on your price or your fee,
Yes.
if you only have a handful of opportunities in your pipeline and every one of them is critical for you to eat that month or for you to pay your rent, you start bending
And making concessions.
and making concessions.
And I've done it.
We all have.
I've done it.
And you want to be strong enough
Yes.
to say, no, this is how we do things here. I make the analogy that financial advisors are like doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to a doctor and tell your doctor how he's supposed to prescribe you.
Yeah.
The doctor says, hold on, let's hear what your problem is.
Yes.
We might want to run a few tests.
Right.
But you don't go in and dictate to the doctor.
Hey, doc, what do you got?
Yeah. And he doesn't launch into some presentation.
Right.
Right? I mean, he has a process. He has a procedure.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that makes the advisors that work with me unique is I give them that process. Now, processes, I think, are a mark of professionalism.
Agreed.
We would never hire we'd never hire an accountant to file our taxes who was just out there winging it.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't hire a surgeon who's just going to, let me poke around, see what I find.
Yeah.
No, they go in with a process, right?
That's right.
And that's one of the things, by the way, that I feel very strongly about is don't hide the fact that you have a process. It's a mark of professionalism.
Absolutely.
Okay? Think about it this way. You have a process for putting together a retirement plan, do you not?
That's right.
Okay. Well, we should also have a process for selling. And I'm sure in an upcoming episode, we'll talk specifically about what that process looks like. But the challenge is that your prospect has a process of their own.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a process, and if you don't stick to your process, you will fall victim to their process. And I'm telling you, their process is very dysfunctional, not only for you as the sales professional or as the financial advisor, it's dysfunctional for them. They don't make good decisions using their sales process. And let me give you an example. Can I share with you what that process looks like? I have to give credit to this to a colleague of mine, Terry. Oh gosh, I'm having a senior moment. I can't remember Terry's last name, but I'm not sure he's still working anymore, but he was from the Minneapolis area. And Terry said that the prospect's buying process is right out of the gate, they'll mislead you or they'll lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
A prospect says, I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They don't even know what you have.
Right.
But they immediately give you the stiff arm, or as my kids would call it, the Heisman.
Yeah.
They immediately push you away.
Yes.
Because they don't want to be bothered. Now, that's one kind of lie. The more insidious lie is when they want something from you.
Mm-hmm.
And what they want is free information,
Mm-hmm.
free consulting. And, our less professional brethren out there in the sales world, they've allowed this to happen to the point where clients begin to expect it.
Yeah. The majority of advisors do this.
Yes. Think about your world. How many times do you talk to your colleagues and find out that they're giving away a lot of free advice, a lot of free
advice, free plans, and they're going back to what you've taught me very early on. Come on, Brian. Show them how good you are. Show them how well you can explain everything. And they're banking on the fact that if they show them enough and they bring up this plan, there's going to be enough pain created by showing this plan that they're just going to say yes.
And prospects will oftentimes bait you or mislead you into that. They will act interested when in fact they're not. We, in turn, get happy ears.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that scene from Dumb and Dumber when Jim Carrey is going after this girl that has no interest whatsoever?
So you're telling me I've got a chance.
Exactly. That's what happens to the sales professional.
Miss Samsonite.
But that's what happens to the sales professional who hasn't done a good job of marketing.
Right. Yes.
They've only got a handful of opportunities, so every one of those opportunities is critical to whether they're going to be able to pay their rent that month. So what happens is a prospect comes in, says the insidious lie, so I'm genuinely interested in learning what you have to say, and you've offered a second opinion, and my hope is that you can show me things, because if I see the right kind of planning, there's a good chance that I'm going to work with you. And it's filled with wishy-washy language.
Yes.
Filled with words that are meaningless.
Right.
But that's enough for that salesperson to get happy ears. And so what do? They don't qualify the prospect well.
Right.
Okay? They dive into that presentation too soon. And what happens after they give that presentation?
I need to think about it.
Exactly.
I need to think about it. I think a lot of advisors get stuck on, well, I just want to see what you have and what you can do for me.
Right.
That used to stump me up all the time until I started working with you.
Yeah.
Now when I get that, that's my favorite thing to hear, because I say, well, when you say, what do I have, or what can I do for you, can you expand on that and tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that? Or I might even say, wow, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Can you walk me through what exactly that means for you?
Yeah, that's textbook, Brian. That's excellent.
And then from there, now you're starting to make progress.
Because now we're finding out what are the underlying problems
Right.
that are leading them to seek advice.
That's right.
And then the key is you've got to be patient, because if you get behind it, find out they've got a problem, here comes mom's voice, show them, sweetie, show them how you can fix it. And again, as we've said before, this is when you got to be quiet, tell mom to be quiet, and just keep the focus on them. Keep them talking. What we want to do is we want to build that problem, that campfire of a problem, into a bonfire of pain. Because a bonfire, left uncontrolled, it could burn down their house and their plans for retirement along with it. Campfire, it's just going to burn itself up.
So let's role play here for a moment, because one of my favorite things that you taught me was baiting the hook, or how else did you refer to it? Throwing some lines in the water, right? When the prospect would say, well, I just want to see what you've got. And you'd say, well, when you say, what do I've got, can you expand on that? Well, I just want to see what you've got, because that'll happen. You'll say, can you expand on that? And they'll say it again. Well, exactly what I said. I just want to see what you've got. And this is where you've taught me to bait the hook or throw some lines in the water. Can you explain that?
So I will oftentimes preface it by saying, well, there's an awful lot I could show you. How many days do you have?
Yeah.
We only have an hour scheduled.
Right.
The idea is, I said, well, I need to get a sense for where I should start. Typically, and let me just ask you a couple quick questions. How old are you? When do you think you're going to retire? And they tell you. And then I would come back with what I call a 30-second qualifier. And what I would say is, typically when I sit down with couples that are close to your age, who are, 6 or 7 years away from retirement like you are, and they've worked hard, they have done a pretty good job. They've been responsible, and they've set aside a decent nest egg. Some of the concerns that they typically share with me are, can they afford to retire? When should they start taking Social Security? Is there any danger of running out of money? If they're a high net worth individual, what are the tax implications going to be once I start taking money from this nest egg? And how do I create a nest, or how do I create an income stream at all from the money I've saved? Do you share any of those concerns? And what you're looking for is a place to start. Now, when you said throwing your line
And
in the
you've
water,
just basically have given the common complaints
yes,
there. You've laid out the common complaints. What are the most common things we typically hear? And your common complaints, for those of you that are listening, your common complaints that Larry teaches is all about what you do and how you solve problems. So if Social Security is not something that you do, you might not want to throw that out as a common complaint. For us, Social Security is one. So it would be a lot of people we sit down with are not sure when to collect their Social Security.
exactly.
That's a problem we can solve. So you want to throw out whatever common complaints are or what you're focused on at your firm.
So these common complaints
Yeah.
are kind of how we start the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all this is lighting a match to a little bit of kindling, okay? But we're trying to find out what are the things that are rolling around in the back of their head that causes them to want a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what they said, right?
Mm-hmm.
When somebody wants a second opinion, it implies that they're not 100% certain about the retirement plan that they have.
Mm.
Who knows who built it? Did they do it themselves?
Because they're not there for just any reason,
Exactly.
right? They're there for a reason.
Exactly. And, you know, my God, the stereotypical advisor in their mind is a shark. Why would you go meet a shark for an hour? A shark that you're fearful of.
Right, right.
You're going to meet that shark in their mind because they need help, okay? Your job is to bring that help to light. Now, I want to back up a second, though, because let's finish out the process, okay? Once they've told you they want to think about it, historically, that's some form of a stall,
It is.
right? What were you taught to do?
What is it that you want to think about?
Okay. So we were all taught in traditional sales training
Yeah.
how to overcome stalls and objections.
Mm-hmm.
And now the tug of war begins. You know, it's funny. We were at a family reunion this past summer, and somebody had the bright idea. It was my brother-in-law's farm. We decided that we were going to have a tug of war, okay? And I'm probably the oldest male there at 68 or 67 at the time, and the youngest was about 4, okay? And so we're having a tug of war. We thought this was going to be fun. It was fun until my brother-in-law's back goes out. It was fun until a couple of little kids started to get rope burn. The whole thing ended when the one team decided to drop the rope and the other rest of us fell.
Right.
One kid cracked his head. And before you know it, this whole thing has half the group moaning, the other half of the group crying. And we're like, who thought a tug of war was fun? Now, that's how I perceive overcoming stalls and objections. It's not fun, okay? And eventually, the way the game typically ends is somebody gives up.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They drop the rope in the case.
Yes.
But they give up. And usually it's the salesperson. Okay. And so now they're in what I call chase mode. Okay. It's the adult version of hide and seek. They hide from us.
Yep.
And we seek. And they don't return our phone calls.
They ghost us.
They ghost us. And I don't know about you, but we're all taught to persist, right?
Yes.
Don't give up.
Right.
You know, selling's tough, but hang in there. And with every unreturned phone call, it's like taking one letter out of the word persist to where I'm left with the word pest. And that's what I feel like.
A pest, yeah.
And
those guys would and women would say that, yes.
I didn't go into this business to be a pest.
Right.
So I give up.
Right.
Okay. The problem is I just followed the prospect's buying system. Okay. They lie. They seek your information. They lie again in the form of a stall or an objection, and then they hide from you. Now, I hate to say it, Brian, because both of us are in the sales game. We have high respect for sales professionals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet, I'll bet you we've used that process when it comes to somebody that's going to come to your house and do some home remodeling or
Oh,
put a
for
deck.
sure.
I mean,
Yes.
seriously,
I've ghosted them.
you've ghosted them.
Yes.
How many times I've been to your house?
Yeah.
I saw what you did to your backyard.
Yes.
Fantastic, right? Did you give it to the first person that came along, or
No.
did you? How many different contractors did you meet with?
3.
And did each of them give you a quote?
No, not everybody gave me a quote.
Really?
Nope. And you want to know the person I went to? The one that didn't give me the quote.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It was the person, because what they did was they walked me around the property, showing me and painting the vision of everything that could be done.
Yep.
And that's what I was intrigued in, because nobody else walked me around and showed me anything. One guy gave me some pictures that looked nothing like I wanted.
Yep.
The other person just said, I'd get back to you with a quote, never got back to me with a quote. And
The guy you chose
Mhm.
is the one that helped you create the vision
Correct.
for what you wanted your backyard to look like.
Yes. And he kept saying, it's going to be great. You're going to love it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, think about this from the perspective of a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
The financial advisor that wins is the one that helps their prospective client create a vision for what their retirement is going to look like once they've eliminated the concerns that led that prospect to meet with you in the first place.
Well, that's a great point, because what this individual did was, when we walked the property, he asked a lot of questions.
Yes.
And those questions were bringing out more and more and more pain in me.
Yes.
Right? And he said, do you really like the way that this slopes down? It seems like it would just impede on your sitting area. And I'm like, yes, it's exactly what the problem is. And then he would say, how long has that been a concern? And I'm like, since I've been moved into the house. He goes, have you tried anything to fix it? I mean, like, literally almost what you teach.
Wow.
Yes, very impressed by it. And then when I told Kate, this is the person we're going with, and I didn't have any drawings.
Well, that's one mistake you made.
Yeah.
Kate should have been there for the meeting.
Right.
So that you could help capture part of her vision as well.
Yes. But he was the one that asked me the most questions.
Yeah. That's where the magic happens. Okay. And yet we seem to think that the magic happens with our presentation.
Why is it with the questions does the magic happen?
Because we're helping that person. And, it's one of the principles that we're going to talk about it, but selling is a process of collaboration. We can't sell anybody anything. We have to help the prospect come to the conclusion that A, this is a problem worth fixing, and B, that you're the right one to fix it.
Right.
Now, I got a question for you. When it comes to choosing somebody that you want to have, let's just use the same example, redo your backyard, okay? Once that guy created a vision for you, helped you create a vision, that's what he did. He handed you the paintbrush and asked you questions so that you could design this backyard. I'm sure that there are other contractors who could have done the same thing.
Sure.
But would you have had the same confidence in those other contractors? Even though they said, oh, we can do that too, would you have had the same level of confidence with the Me Too contractors as opposed to the one that helped you create the vision?
No, it was just, it was the confidence in which he asked the questions, and then it was his answers to the solutions.
Yes.
And some of the things he would say, we'll figure that out along the way, but we'll have a great solution.
Yeah.
But
you felt comfortable with him.
Correct.
Because
and then he gave me a system that we would follow.
And he was, the reason you felt comfortable with him is you felt like he had helped you create the vision. Now, no contractor is going to create a vision that he can't produce,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So these other guys that said, "Oh, we can do that too," you don't have the same degree of confidence because they weren't the ones that took you to that point.
And they would say exactly that. We can do that. You want to know what he did differently? He repeated what I said. He would say, so if I'm understanding you correctly, this hill here you would like to see removed. If I'm understanding you correctly, this area in the back you want to make bigger. Everyone else just said, when I said, I'd like to make this area bigger in the back, they would say, yeah, we could do that for you. All he did was repeat my words to me. So I felt heard.
You felt like he knew what you wanted.
Yes. Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yes. And that's everything that you taught me
Yeah.
in Client Builder.
Absolutely.
And I never realized how powerful repeating people's words back to them was.
Well, think of how we end every step in the sales process. We have an acronym we call summarize. It's SVC. Summarize, validate, gauge, commitment.
Right.
It's a perfect way to wrap up one step in the process and segue to the next, because it makes that person feel like, yeah, he understands me.
Yes.
Okay, we're
Yes.
on the same page.
Yes.
Right? Now, what I find fascinating is your experience when you had your outdoor space reconfigured, very similar to when I had my basement done. Years ago, we decided to have our basement refinished, and it was funny. If we can deviate and talk a little bit about the concept of pain, my wife at the time wanted to turn our basement into a destination basement. I had never heard of that concept before. You know what it was all about? The boys were now getting to the age where they could get in trouble. We had heard rumor that some parents would let kids drink at their house or watch movies that maybe we didn't want our kids watching, right? So she wanted to make our house the place that all the kids would hang out so that we could have some control over the environment, okay? That was her pain. That wasn't my pain. Jesus. It's raucous enough with two boys, ages, 11 and 8. Do I want to have a group of their friends hanging out every night?
Right.
Not particularly.
Yeah.
So she gives me the responsibility for finding a contractor to renovate the basement. I'm only going through the motions, right? While that contractor is in my basement, he noticed some plumbing that had been, it had been there for a dog bath, but it was just capped, right? He said, I noticed you had some plumbing here. I said, yeah, the people that owned the house before us had a dog bath here. He says, huh, have you ever thought about turning this area into a wet bar? And all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm listening. Now, of course, I had to catch myself. I said, well,
right.
That's the thing we're trying to avoid. We don't want,
Yeah.
Kids coming over here and get, he says, oh, no. I'm not talking about now, but your kids are going to be going to college in 5 or 6 years. And all of a sudden I got excited.
Yeah.
I wasn't buying a destination basement anymore. I was buying a future man cave for me with my own bar and a big screen TV.
Right.
And I don't know how I got off on that, but the point here is that he listened. He planted some seeds. As you pointed out earlier, he put some bait in the water.
Yes.
The bait that he put in the water was future man cave.
That's right.
Now, you're in the same shoes I was back then. How much would you crave to have a night to yourself just to chill?
Yes.
And you and Kate can go downstairs and have a glass of wine and put some movie on.
Yes.
And know that you're not going to get interrupted.
That's right.
Well, that's where I was. And that was a hot button for me. That was that bait. man, I took that bait. He had me. And eventually, he's the guy we hired. Why? Well,
Because he listened?
he had a great vision for what this destination basement was, and he was willing to keep my secret that we're someday going to put a wet bar there that was going to appeal to my desires. So anyway.
Let me go back on something and wrap up something in regards to marketing. And I think we kind of answered it, but I want to make sure we drive it home for the audience. And that is, you've seen how desperation creeps in when advisors don't have enough leads, right?
Yes.
And I always say they have commission breath, right? Because they're so desperate for these leads. What does that desperation do to their effectiveness? Does it just cause them to keep skipping steps and going back to this show them, I want to present?
It does. It basically causes them to give up control of the process to the prospect. Now, it does that, which means that at the end of this thing, all we're going to do is get to think it over and provide free advice. But the other thing it does, and we started to talk about this at the beginning, is it causes them to take on a prospect that maybe they shouldn't have. And I'll give you an example. Let's suppose somebody has a large chunk of AUM, okay? But what they're really looking for is somebody to manage that, and all they care about is performance. Is that an ideal prospect for a retirement planning firm?
No.
Why?
Because all they want is a plan.
Well, they need the plan, but all they're measuring that plan by is performance.
Performance, right.
And most of the retirement planners that I work with, including you, they're focusing on making sure that that money is safe, that their income stream is protected. If somebody simply wants performance, they're really more geared toward that accumulation-oriented advisor that doesn't do what you do. And you will come to regret it.
Very true.
Because that person will always be griping every time there happens to be a market decline. So they take on the wrong clients, or they skip steps on their process, or abandon their process altogether and go with the prospects.
It's so true because, when we started bringing assets under management on board, right?
Yep.
We strayed away from the fundamentals that we built the company around, and that was protecting a portion of the money first,
right,
to help replace the paycheck,
right,
that people were going to lose when they retired, because Social Security was just not going to be enough, and then you had 85% of the people retiring without pensions.
Yep.
And so a few of the cases that we took in the beginning, we went 100% assets under management, and now all they're doing is judging us by performance. That's it.
Right.
They didn't stick with our model of building income first, managing their taxes, managing their investments, their healthcare, and their estate planning. And it got all out of whack. And they turned into the worst clients ever. And now we know that if you are looking to keep all of your money invested in the market, we would prefer to refer you to another firm than bring you in-house to our firm, because we know what the end result's going to be, and that's going to be, well, my buddy made 12%, I only made 11. Exactly. So why didn't you guys make a move into this stock when they made a move into this stock?
Yep.
And that's not the type of clientele we want.
Exactly. Or on the flip side, you take on a client that doesn't have enough. They don't have enough assets to justify the level of service that your firm provides.
Right.
And you really desperately need the business. So you take on that client. They might only have $100,000, but they expect that you're going to meet with them every year, that you're going to answer the phone every time they have a question. But at the end of the day, it's not a profitable client for you. It's what we would call a rabbit,
Yeah, and I would say a lot of people watching this episode probably have those types of clients where very early on in their career, they took people on that they probably shouldn't have taken on. But in the beginning, if they could fog a mirror, we were going to take them on.
Exactly.
Right? And then it becomes this monumental task to unwind that servicing model where you've been seeing Mrs. Smith, who's got 100 grand for the past 10 years every single year. I want to leave the audience with this. In my own firm, I've seen a shift when advisors start thinking, I'm financially independent and I don't need this sale. And what I've seen is their confidence go through the roof. When they repeat to themselves, and you taught us this,
Right.
that every meeting you go into, you must say to yourself, I am financially independent and I do not need this business.
That's right.
And the key to that is what? What mindset does that put the advisor in?
They're only going to take that client if that client is a good fit from the firm's perspective and a good fit from the client's perspective. In other words, it's a perfect match. Okay. Yeah. If we go in with the mindset I really need this sale, number one, it shows.
Yep.
We have commission breath. They smell it.
Yep.
Okay. And number two, we have a tendency to abandon our process, or even if we win the sale, we bring on a client that really isn't a good fit for what we do at the firm, and then we later regret it. So by having that mindset, and so bottom line is, if I have a strong marketing effort and if I have a full pipeline, I'm not afraid to disqualify a prospect.
Yes.
And dedicate my time to somebody that's a better fit.
Yes.
And I think the thing that, if we can look at your firm, one of the things that amazes people is how the heck does your firm do the volume it does with as few advisors as it has?
Yes.
And the answer to that is we only work with people that are a good fit.
That's right.
We disqualify those that are not a good fit early. Instead of wasting the time having a second or third appointment, which oftentimes just winds up being free consulting with a think it over at the end. You have eliminated that. So you have that much more time to dedicate to those that make sense, not only from your perspective, but for theirs.
And the key, folks, is this. When you have enough people to see, you get to choose who you work with, because your job is to disqualify those people as quickly as you possibly can. And when your advisors have enough people to see, they get to disqualify those people quickly. And if they don't meet the criteria, they can within 5 minutes shake that person's hands and say, look, I don't think we're going to be a good fit, and we can refer you to somebody else. If you're liking what you're hearing on this Client Builder for Financial Advisors podcast, we are just scratching the surface. Larry and I have so much more to go through that are going to help you master the sales process in the conference room. Even if you're a great marketer, the question is, how good are you in the conference room? That's what makes a difference. We started with you at $30 million. Today, we're at $200 million with 4 financial advisors. And the whole point of this podcast is going to be teaching you how to get you there the way that I did, utilizing Larry's techniques through the Client Builder for Financial Advisors system. So we'll see you again on the next episode.